Hello to everyone who may or may not be here. Welcome back to the stream where we play non-violent games, games that reward the player for intellectual and or emotional engagement rather than for combat or other kinds of violent gameplay loops. We are back with the Great Ace Attorney today. 2nd November, 8:56 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. There's that old familiar feeling again. The crushing pressure of this historic courthouse. Actually, no. It's a little different today. There's an even more menacing tension in the air. There's a menacing tension in the air today. In the air here today, isn't there, I suppose? Yes, I think so. It can only be the result of the menacing appearance of the defendant. A little more courtesy, if you please. Oh, my, I do apologize. I do apologize. However, you're certainly not mistaken that this trial is far from ordinary. What do you mean? I'm not privy to... I'm not privy to the details. However, I understand that no jury has been selected. A trial without a jury? Well, that's just like the trial of the professor 10 years ago. A closed court. Good morning, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes. Have you made note of my hand, Miss Otto? An outright victory for science, you must agree. To be perfectly honest, so much happened yesterday that, well, I completely forgot about your little hair problem. Ha! What to one man is a little hair problem is to another a day of drinking dubious potion after dubious potion. You have no idea how my stomach ails me this morning. Oh dear, how awful for you. I'm afraid you only have yourself to blame, Mr. Sholmes. And good morning to you, Mr. Riva. I'm delighted to see you looking so full of vim. And you. I see London's celebrated great detective is as active as ever. Oh, you exaggerate, my dear fellow. Compared to my paltry engagements with a few trivial cases, the Reaper's overbearing presence is a far greater deterrent to the black roots of crime in our capital. And whilst I may not agree with your methods, there is at least one point on which I would readily commend you. What an honor. And that would be... What an honor, and that would be your eye for a good lawyer, sir. Mr. Sholmes. After all, behind this lawyer there is a very great mind. My own. What are you trying to say? I wish only to say that you should be prepared for quite a trial, Mr. Reaper. Sorry to barge in. Oh, no, here we go. Sorry to barge in. Gina! What's that on her arm? It's a mourning band, I suppose. Father, should you be at the symposium? It's been postponed, so I have some free time. Is that... It's close to his voice. Is it? Is it his voice, though? It's been postponed, so I have some free time. I decided to come along with the police inspector to see our country's up-and-coming student in action. I shall be very interested to see the fruits of your studies over the past year. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's hope there are some fruits to see. What a... Oh, yes, Gina. Why'd you agree to this, eh? Why'd you take him on? It's Reaper bloke. Everyone says it was him who killed the boss. I'm sorry, Gina, but I just don't believe that. Well, if it weren't him, who was it? I don't know that. Yet. I don't care who calls him what. Reaper's just a name. He's just a person at the end of the day. And if it turns out it was him who killed the boss, then God help him. Fiery eyes indeed. Yes, the culprit deserves every ounce of your loathing. Eh? At least that may be some solace to the deceased. Please, hold on. Get whoever did this. For the boss. Oh, Gina. I hate feeling this useless, but there's nothing I can do. So you gotta find who done this and make the wretch pay. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court will be in session shortly. Make your way into the courtroom at once, please. Alright then, here we go. The bailiff seems to have a different voice every time he speaks. I don't know why I do that, but I do it, so here we are. It's time, Miss Otto, Lord Van Zieks. One who lost his treasured brother to a mass murderer. One who lost his treasured father in a foreign court of law. And one who lost the man who helped her escape destitution. All that misfortune, all that pain, on course to collide headlong in this trial. It's time to shine a light on all these dark events. And whatever truth is revealed, we're going to have to look straight in the eye. Second November, 9:20 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here to conduct the fair and just trial of the defendant, Barak Van Zieks. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready to begin? The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Kazuma-sama? I've been wishing to see you in court again for so long, it feels... But I never pictured it happening like this. I never thought I'd be facing you behind the prosecutor's bench. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey has been a scourge like no other, undermining Her Majesty's justice system. Today we must uncover the truth behind this scourge. In other words, this trial is going to be a lot more far-reaching than Inspector Gregson's murder. The truths revealed by these proceedings may have unpredictable repercussions through the judiciary. Accordingly, they ought to be conducted as a closed trial, with no members of the public present, by Her Majesty's direct orders. How will that work, my lord? The burden of all arbitration and adjudication falls on my shoulders. Therefore, as you will see, the jurors' bench shall remain vacant today. If no members of the public are present, might I ask who is currently occupying the gallery, my lord? They are members of the judiciary, here to witness proceedings and ensure an equitable trial. Members of the judiciary? Oh my, this is a very unusual trial already. This is, of course, another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings on which I must elaborate. The counsels for the prosecution and the defense are both aliens of Great Britain. I believe it takes an outsider to see the truth sometimes. And as I stand here in this courtroom now, I'm quite certain this is the reason why I had to come to Britain. Kazuma? Very well. Let us commence proceedings. Prosecutor Asogi, your opening statement, if you please. Certainly, my lord. The incident took place on the 1st of November at just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The location was a building of flats on Fresno Street on the outskirts of the city. The victim's body was discovered there in an old single-room rental property. Yes, Inspector Tobias Gregson, a name known very well indeed to this court. Not least for his miraculous resolution of one of this country's grimmest cases 10 years ago. The Professor case. How sure are you about the time of the incident? Several witnesses on the street outside heard the gunshot, and all have reported the same time. Yes, that's what Gina told us too. There were a number of witnesses. I have here a plan of the room. The victim was found curled up in one corner. It's believed that he was shot from the front at point-blank range and died instantly. How has the range been determined? There were scorch marks around the entry wound. Such marks are caused by the gunpowder used to fire the bullet. But powder hot enough to leave scorch marks is only ejected a few inches beyond the end of the barrel. In other words, it only happens when the target is at point-blank range. I see. Yes. Well, thank you for the detailed explanation, Counsel. Autopsy report has been entered into the court record. Inspector Gregson's autopsy report stating that death was instant, resulting from a bullet shot at close range. The murder weapon was found lying beside the victim. And have you managed to ascertain the owner of this firearm? No, my lord. Not conclusively. Not conclusively. Bravo, Kazuma-sama, for not trying to use the gun as evidence when its provenance can't be proven. Furthermore, my lord, as I've explained, the revolver was fired at extremely close range. The bullet passed through the victim and struck the wall behind him. There's a candelabrum mounted on that wall, and the tip of one of the candles in it was found to have been blown off by the projectile. We noticed that too, didn't we? Yes, that's right. Thank you for the thorough report, Counsel. The setting of the crime is clear to me. You will submit the plan of the crime scene as evidence, please. As you wish, my lord. Plan of the small room in the building flats on Fresno Street where the body of the victim, Inspector Gregson, was found. Is this Fresno Street room Inspector Gregson's private abode? No, my lord. The room is rented to a Mr. Hugh Boone, but there is precious little furniture inside, and it is generally in a poor state of repair. But there is precious little furniture inside, and it is generally in a poor state of repair. So what on earth was Gregson even doing there? Presumably he was investigating some case or other. When a policeman was informed of the gunshot from the witnesses and rushed to the scene, he found only the deceased inspector and the accused standing alongside holding the revolver. The attending officer arrested the accused on the spot. So, the details of the case are clear. In that case, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. A name, please, Counsel. Naturally, the accused himself. Lord Van Zieks! As a prosecutor, he believes in the oath of office he's taken, and will be compelled to tell the truth. Very well. Let the defendant take the witness stand. So, witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Barrack Van Zieks, Old Bailey prosecutor. I presume, Lord Van Zieks, that you heard Prosecutor Asogi's opening presses. I did, It is alleged that you were found at the scene of the crime, and that you were arrested by the arriving police officer. Can you confirm this? Yes, my lord. Then I'm sure the court would like to hear you explain some things away. Namely, why you were there in the room on Fresno Street at the time in question, and what exactly took place. I intend to explain away nothing. I will simply tell the truth. I must say, Lord Van Zieks, I never imagined this day would come. Or rather, I didn't want to imagine it would come. But since you became known as the Reaper, a part of me has been dreading it. Your formal testimony, then, witness. Back to the incident. I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address. When I first encountered the room that day, it was dark inside and I saw no one. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. That testimony was the whole truth? It was. So, you heard a shot being fired in a room with no living occupants, and moments later a corpse somehow appeared before your eyes. Is that it? You're right. You haven't explained away anything. In fact, that would barely qualify as an excuse. I thought you were my mute apprentice. Yet it turns out you have a way with words, Prosecutor Asagi. It would appear to be a singular tale indeed. Singular isn't the word. It's laughable. Singular isn't the word. It's laughable. What's gotten into Kazuma? He's not behaving like himself at all. Very well, then. Counsel, you may begin your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. You were investigating the inspector? What on earth for? I'm not at liberty to say. Sorry? I'd identified a distinct possibility that Gregson was involved in a case I was investigating. Regrettably, though, he was killed before I could secure the proof I needed. Is the court to understand, then, that on the day in question you followed the victim to the scene? No. I was privy to his movements in advance. How? I stole into his office in the yard and consulted his diary. The address on Fresno Street was noted in the 5 p.m. entry. You illegally entered the man's office. In Japan, that alone would constitute a very serious offense. As it does in Great Britain, I assure you. Is that not the case, Lord Van Zieks? I was aware of the possible consequences. So, in summary, you were investigating the victim, and yet you refused to tell the court why. I didn't realize British prosecutors enjoyed such freedom to choose what to divulge under oath. Why did I ever think I could defend this man? Had you ever been to the address before? No, never. I only learned of the place as a result of my investigations into Gregson's activities. There was no light inside when I entered, so it has all been impossible to make out anything. But at 5 p.m. the sun would only just have gone down. It would still have been reasonably light outside. The room has a window, but it was boarded shut. Very little light found its way into the room from outside, so it was extremely murky inside. I wouldn't have noticed if the victim was already lying on the floor. There was no artificial light in the room, you say? You're quite sure? I'm quite sure that the part of the room where the body was found was very dark. I have a feeling there was a small oil lamp burning on the desk. I couldn't say for certain. Look, Mr. Hale. There is a small desk in the room just here. Yes, I remember. And there was an oil lamp on it, as well as the framed photograph. When I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and started toward the desk to investigate. And what did you find? Sorry. Nothing. I never actually reached the desk. A moment later, So, who fired the gun? I have no idea. I didn't see anybody else in the room. But you say it was very dark in there? Yes, that's right. All I can tell you is I didn't sense another's presence. Ah, then could it be that the gunshot actually originated from somewhere outside the room? No, that's out of the question. Oh. Without doubt, the sound emanated from inside the room. I could smell the gunpowder. This is going from bad to worse. And you say that's the point at which you noticed the revolver on the floor? Correct. And I foolishly picked it up. That was carelessness on my part. Presumably, then, the gunshot you heard came from the firearm that you somewhat hastily took in your hands. In point of fact, my lord, I believe it did not. What? The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder. But then, where on earth is the gun that was fired? Whilst I would like to oblige you with an answer, I'm afraid I can't. I, too, would dearly like to know that. Man, you say? One of the witnesses, I presume? That's right. One of the street merchants working on Fresno Street. Who are these merchants? A number of them had set up their stalls directly beneath the boarded window of the crime scene. A match seller, a newsmonger, and a peddler. They've all given statements saying they heard the gunshot, and without thought of danger, they ran inside to see what had happened. Yes. Gina told us about that yesterday, didn't she? They burst through the door with some force, it would seem. They did, and almost gave me a heart attack in the process. But you're supposed to be the Reaper. The first man to come in immediately noticed the revolver in my hand and fled. A policeman patrolling on Fresno Street heard the commotion, and was able to arrest the accused shortly after the incident occurred. Anyway, the man's scream drew my attention in that direction. What do you mean by that? I mean, in what way did the body appear? I honestly can't explain it, but it's the truth. As far as I was concerned, the body hadn't been there until that point, and suddenly there it was. Did you perhaps hear the sound of the victim falling to the ground just beforehand? At that moment, what I heard was the sound of the door flying open and the scream of the man who came inside first. Nothing more. I see. After the man fled, I examined the body. I was stunned to find that it was Gregson. Most curious circumstances indeed. How the inspector was killed, or how his body seemed to appear out of nowhere, I have no idea.
Objection.
Surely the court has heard enough. My lord, the cross-examination has clearly revealed that the accused Barak Van Zieks is lying on multiple fronts. What is that supposed to mean? Good gracious, counsel. The defendant is lying, you say? In his testimony just now, he claims that he failed to notice the victim's body because the room was dark. That's correct. No, that's impossible. As proven by this candelabrum. How does that prove anything? If you examine the tip of the long candle, you can see that it was blown off by a powerful impact. One would assume that the projectile, I guess. Projectile. Sorry, sometimes I switch up my pronunciation of that word for no reason whatsoever. I just do it kind of automatically. One would assume that the projectile from the firearm passed through the victim and struck the candle. The problem comes when you consider the other two candles, which are clearly of a different length. Yes, I can see that only the candle that appears to have been struck by the bullet is long. We could reasonably expect someone to have lit all three candles together, which begs the question of why only one has ended up longer than the others. That must be because that particular candle was extinguished while the others were still burning. Ah! That's right. When the candle was hit by the bullet, it obviously went out. But the other two candles would have still been burning. So the fact is, the victim's body would have been illuminated by the light still thrown by the candelabrum. And the accused claim that he couldn't see the body is clearly and the accused claim that he couldn't see the body clearly contradicts those facts. And now to the next lie. There's more? The accused also claims never to have visited the scene of the crime before. That's the truth. In that almost empty room, the police discovered something very unusual. A board covered from top to bottom in police documents and newspaper cuttings. Yes, that's right. We saw it too. It goes without saying that the contents of the police documents cannot be divulged. However, they included a number of reports from various historical cases, the oldest of which was from 10 years ago. 10 years ago? This is starting to sound familiar. And there is a common thread linking all of the documents on that board. Indeed? What is this common thread, counsel? They all relate to cases prosecuted in court by Barak Van Zieks. All of them? And furthermore, all those cases are ones in which the defendant was acquitted. Good lord! Interestingly, none of those defendants are alive today, because all of them have been sent to their graves by the Reaper. Ah! Oh no. In short, that dingy little room is the Reaper's secret hideout and his base of operations. The Reaper's hideout? And yet the Reaper would claim never to have been to his own secret hideout. No one would believe that. No, the truth is, we've been looking at this backwards. Backwards? Explain, counsel. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. What? Order! Very well. I hereby state that the current opinion of the court... I hereby state the current opinion of the court. Barak Van Zieks is an outstanding prosecutor who has rendered great service to his country. I don't know why I'm adding in the rolling R's now. I haven't been doing that. Derek Van Zieks is an outstanding prosecutor who has rendered great service to his country. I don't know. However, it is with deep regret that I must concur with Prosecutor Asagi's contention that the defendant's testimony exhibits a number of stark inconsistencies with the known facts. All I have done is state the truth as I know it. Chasm has done a brilliant job as ever. He's drawing on his experience as a defense attorney to build his prosecution case, and it's formidable. Counsel, you will submit the board that you have just shared the court as evidence. I believe it to be fundamental in establishing the facts surrounding the Reaper's existence. Thank you, my lord. Please stand on the notice board completely covered in notes and articles related to the victims of the Reaper's event. Now, the prosecution would like to call new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses who saw events unfold on the day in question. They were mentioned in the previous testimony too, if you remember. Yes, the street sellers who heard the gunshot and went running into the room. Very well, lead the witnesses in. Alright. The defendant may step down from the witness stand. Certainly, my lord. So, witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Okay,
names? We don't use names. Far too fancy for the likes of us.
Okay.
Names? We don't use names. Far too fancy for the likes of us.
We're just free and easy. Sell what we like, live where we want to live. We're just free and easy. We're just free and easy. Sell what we like, live where we want to live. I gave them all a vacant stare as they walk down Fresno and spin a few words into a verse for them. I gave them all a vacant stare as they walk down Fresno and spin a few words into a verse for them. Would I be right in assuming that all three of you will make your living by selling wares on the street?
There. Here, everyone calls me Gossip. Here, everyone calls me Gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits to passers-by, you know.
Jaunty little tidbits?
Got an absolute smatter for you, sir. Right up your guinea it is. 6 pence is the price and not a penny less.
Wait, you're actually trying to sell it to me now?
Oh, come on, sir. Don't tell me you're not interested.
Try the man. Give him the money and see what it is. Pay the man, counsel. All right, 6 pence it is.
You won't regret it, sir. Now, got your listening ears on? Just between us, a young couple on Slate Street have just had twins.
Is that it?
No, that's not it. It's gossip, isn't it? It wants to spread. That bit's up to you and your mouth, of course. I've got more, you know. Want another juicy one? 6 pence a piece it is, if you're curious.
I am curious, yes, about what is going on just under that fat bottom lip of yours. Namely, that unusual bruise or whatever it is that's poking out from under your collar. What about the next witness, then? What name do you go by, and what do you sell?
Me, I'm Venus.
We're just free and easy. Sell what we like, live where we want to live.
Me, I'm Venus. I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, innit? Me, I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, innit? Me, I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, innit? I sell these lovely little fireworks to all the local school kids. 6p a pop. What do you say?
You weren't exaggerating with little. Do they actually sell?
Oh yeah. My second you just can't get enough of my Venus firecrackers. Especially when I tell them that if they get 100, they could blow up the school.
Not the most savory of ideas, young lady.
What do you say there, eh? One part with 6p for a pop.
Wait, what? You want me to buy one?
Tell you what, I'll let you in on a little secret. If you get 100 of them, you could blow up the whole courtroom.
Try the woman.
Give her the money and see if she's right.
Pay the woman, counsel. It's your courtroom, man!
Alright, I'll buy one. Lovely stuff. Right there. This is something a bit extra, just for you. The Venus Special. Only 600 pence.
600?
It's 100 of my regular fireworks. Not little about that, is there? It's 100 of my regular fireworks.
No, I'm not doing that.
Me, I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, innit?
It's 100 of my regular fireworks. Nothing little about that, is there?
There'd be nothing little about the punishment if I blew up the Old Bailey either. Yes, special firecracker consisting of 100 smaller fireworks at 6p each. Sort of a bang could it make? And the last witness. What name do you go by and what do you sell?
I'm a thinker, me.
I give them all a vacant stare.
I'm a thinker, mate. I think all sorts of thoughts. I think, therefore, I am. I am, therefore, I think. I think. Because I stand on the street watching the world go on about me. They call me the observator. The observator.
Get out of it, old man. Everyone calls you sandwich and you know it.
So, you don't actually sell anything?
A problem shares a problem I have, they say. Well, I give advice, I do, and think what it means. Well, I don't actually sell anything, no. Come to think of it.
Pity.
No more purchases today, please.
Well, we have quite a cast here, it seems. They conduct their business on Fresno Street from morning until night, my lord. And always in the same place, directly adjacent to the crime scene. I see. And thus they heard the gunshot, I suppose. Not only that, but they very bravely ran inside to see what was going on and witness the crime.
Well, I'll be begging, I thought. Just curious.
Venus de Milo, what am I to do? What a terrible thing I saw.
What I think is, if all what we saw is light and shadow, but playing with our eyes, is any of it real? Very well.
The court will hear the formal testimony of these three witnesses now. You will describe in detail what you witnessed and heard at the time of the incident.
We all saw the whole thing from start to finish, we did. Everything from the moment they went in the building.
It was less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside, and we all heard a big bang. Seems to me, quick to talk is quick to walk. Of course, I couldn't wait to go and see what happened.
I ran into the room, and that it was the Reaper, gun in hand, staring over the dead body.
I was scared half to death, mate, so I ran off to find a copper. If these witnesses were there the whole day and saw everything, who did they see going inside the building? Only the victim, Inspector Gregson, and the accused, Baroque Van Zeeks.
I've seen pictures of that Reaper in the paper. I know what he looks like. And just between us, folks love stories like this. I've made myself a tidy some already.
But wait, the room was just one of several flats in the building. Someone from another flat could have done it. All those flats on Fresno Street are unoccupied.
Of course they are. They're small, damn dirty, and expensive to boot.
The room in which the inspector was found is the only property in the building that's currently leased. And we know the leaseholder's name, don't we? It's Hugh Boone. The testimony the court has just heard would appear to leave little room for doubt. It's becoming increasingly difficult to see how anyone other than the defendant could have committed the crime. No. Thank you for your candor, my lord. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed to cross-examine the witness. Yes, my lord. In a closed court like this without a jury, the judge is the only person whose opinion matters. I have to break down this testimony. Somehow. And this is a count. When you say they, who do you mean exactly? Inspector Gregson and the defendant, Lord Van Zeeks?
I suppose so. I just lost their names like high and mighty. But I'll tell you one thing, it was the old Reaper that went in last, that's for sure and certain.
Just behind Inspector Gregson. Did they arrive at the same time as each other?
No, not all. The first fella must have gone inside a good 15 minutes before we heard that gunshot.
The victim arrived 15 minutes before? Are you sure about that?
Am I sure? It doesn't seem likely that I've forgotten a fellow with bright red hair like that, does it?
Yeah, is that really well red, weren't it? Redder than my flaming fireworks even. That fiery red mop still burnt on the inside of my eyelids, it is. Wait a minute, you're saying the man was a redhead?
Weren't you listening, chump? He was a redhead. He had a big trunk with him as well.
But Inspector Gregson's hair isn't red. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Seems likely that the person you saw wasn't in fact Inspector Gregson at all, but some other third party. No, I hate to break it to you, but the witnesses are correct. Right, he had a wig. What? Just have a look at this photograph of the victim taken at the scene. Yes, that's Inspector Gregson, all right. And a red hairpiece. Ah, of course. We saw one on the floor when we investigated the scene, didn't we? I still refuse to believe Inspector Gregson wore a hairpiece, though. So why on earth would he have been wearing something like that? Well, the color does seem to suit the man, one might say. The photograph will be submitted as evidence, please, counsel. Photograph of the victim has been entered into the court record. And what became... And what became of the trunk that the red-headed victim was supposedly carrying? I was informed that no trunk was found at the scene.
So he just disappeared?
What, do you expect us to have been watching the building every second, did you?
We definitely saw him in the dark going in there. No question about that. It was less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside that we all heard a big bang. By which presumably you mean the gunshot. I said these little things, don't I? How would I know what a gunshot sounds like? I've always thought it probably sounds a bit like this. Don't it? I don't know why I'm having trouble with her. I sell these little things, don't I? How would I know what a gunshot sounds like? I've always thought it probably sounds a bit like this, doesn't it? I sell these little things, don't I? I sell these little things, don't I? How would I know what a gunshot sounds like? But I've always thought it probably sounds a bit like this, don't it? And you saw that you heard the noise almost as soon as you saw the defendant here enter the building. That's right. It was almost right away. Bang it went. Just like that.
Well, he's the Reaper, ain't he? It's what the French call fait accompli. When the Reaper's around, people going in the ground. I mean, that's what he does, ain't it?
I think we get the message. The Reaper couldn't allow the Inspector to live after he discovered his secret hideout. There can be no clear motive for the crime. Yes. It's certainly an eminently credible motive. Great. And at that point, you ran inside. Is that correct? So, when Gossip ran to see what had happened, did you go too? Well, I'm a bit amped, all of a sudden, so that I can't move very well. You were away behind, presumably, with that sandwich board around your neck and that big sign in your hand. What a great burden you bear. Pardon me for asking, Mr. Sandwich, but is it possible you and I have met before? I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. He is one of the very first witnesses that we met in London. What was his name? Beppo.
Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course.
I'm not anybody, mate. The signs are what make me who I am now. I signed, therefore I am.
So you weren't employed as an omnibus driver just under a year ago then? I might be mistaken, but I believe his trembling has intensified, Mr. Nardo. Yes, I agree. He's clearly been through a lot.
Turn down King Henry Street, and the Black Widow's arms are just there.
Wait, hold on.
Boss, no. Yes, that's right, sir.
Turn down King Henry Street, and the Black Widow's arms are just there. Oh dear, you've made him hide behind his sign.
Life is full of surprises. Oops. So then you were the first person to arrive on the scene, is that right?
Well, I was. The door opened like a professional, I did. Yell out, "What's going off here?"
Lord Van Zieks claims that all he heard was a man scream, though. And was it dark inside the room?
No, they were not dark at all. There were candles burning on the wall.
Really?
And there was a fellow collapsed on the floor. Just between us. It's the first thing I noticed when I got inside.
Ah, I see. Even though Lord Van Zieks claimed not to have seen any such lights on the wall.
The next thing I noticed was someone standing right beside the body.
The accused Barak Van Zieks.
That's right, the pale-faced Reaper himself. I was a little shocked, I won't deny it, but I'm no really little cloud. I stood my ground and gave that Reaper a cold hard stare myself.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Mr. Sandwich? There's really nothing to me. Empty in the head I am. Just two slices with no middle. So I don't know what you could want with me. I think that maybe you just remembered something. Having heard Mr. Gossip's last statement, I mean. What I think is, we're all nothings, really. We try to dress ourselves up as something else, but at the end of the day, we're all just street sellers.
That's enough of you, Sandwich. Keep your tracks shut now. Unless you want us to make it into a real sandwich.
When he saw the Reaper, he fell clean over on his backside. That's it?
Oh, you rotten bear. I told you to keep that a secret.
He screamed, he did. Screamed and scrambled off on all fours. That's all I wanted to say. Mr. Gossip, is this true?
The floor was dead slippery, that's why. I put it in my hand in a filthy pool of blood, didn't I? Yeah.
What? A pool of blood?
Oh, listen up here. Even when I was sprawled out on the floor, I still kept giving that Reaper a couple of odds, and don't you forget it.
Well, let's just go back a little. Did you say you got blood on your hand?
Well, I did. It happens the best of times, don't it? So I was scared, so I slipped over. We can keep it just between us, can't we?
No, Mr. Gossip. I'm going to have to ask you to add that information to your formal testimony.
If I must.
The witness will amend his testimony to include the aforementioned details at once.
I slipped over and got blood in my hand, so I quickly wiped it off on the floor.
You wiped your hand on the floor?
Well, everyone's blood on his hand, eh? Horrible stuff. And I thought I'd done it. No, not at all.
And you didn't think that might be a problem?
Does it really matter if I left a few grubby handprints on the floor? They get cleaned up in here, won't they? I don't make such a fuss, that's the message from all the voice.
Is something wrong, Counsel? No, my lord. I didn't remember anything in the report about a bloody handprint on the floor, that's all.
Don't come back with all that, you can't intimidate me. I know what I did, I wiped it off on the floor, the blood.
I wonder, could that be what happened? Mr. Hutto? I don't have all the answers yet, but I think we may have just uncovered a vital clue. I was scared after death, mate, so I ran off to find a copper. So you didn't run into the room with your friends? I'm not that sort of girl. Sorry? I'm a timid little thing, mate. I was too scared to go in there. Ah, right. I see. Heard Lippy and the witch ran in there, and then I heard a sort of old lady scream.
Well, that wasn't me, I swear. If I were a gentleman, I'd stake my arm on it.
I wondered what on earth was going on. which is when you went to find the policeman. And I ran into a copper as soon as I turned the corner, so I brought him straight back to the place. Did I do well, eh?
That's between us. That copper's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw the Reaper.
Well, I've never felt more uncomfortable in all my life. And the defendant was arrested on the spot, I believe. Considering the catalogue of killings the Reaper had carried out, it was a particularly inauspicious end. I can't find any holes in this testimony. I'm afraid the judge will give a ruling of guilty, Miss Nardo. The truth is, though, their combined testimony is fairly damning. Unfortunately, there don't seem to be any obvious problems with their statements, do there? Still, if Lord Venzies really is innocent, then I'm almost certain that we'll find something in there that doesn't quite add up. You don't think that one of these three could be the true culprit, do you? I don't know. But what I do know is that there's more to this case that has yet to be brought to light. Ding, ding, do, 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 do. Oh, nope, I guess not. That last statement was contradictory in a number of ways, I think you'll find. In a number of ways, you say? That's right, my lord. In a number of ways. Perhaps it would serve you well to concentrate your efforts on one contradiction at a time, Counsel. I made a bit of a mess of that. In a number of ways, actually. There are details of a whole raft of cases dating back years on here, aren't there? This paper from 10 years ago is browning with age, look. Out of interest, the most recent thing appears to be this newspaper cutting here. Oh, it's the same Red-Headed League advertisement that Mr. Sholmes picked out. And do you remember, there was a red hair piece at the scene too? Was Inspector Gregson an exponent of the Red-Headed League then? Ah, there you are! Oh, what's this? Miss Nardo, look! Ah, yes, it's a smudge of some kind. In fact, it looks just like a handprint. And the color! There's blood, isn't it? Oh dear, how disturbing. So you wiped off the blood from your hand on the floor of the room. Are you quite sure about that?
Well, what else do you expect me to die? It doesn't really matter.
The police found no such handprint on the floor during their investigations. What exactly is the defense asserting? If you listen, you'll find out, Prosecutor Asuki. Certainly, there was no bloody handprint found on the floor. What are you trying to say? There was a handprint in blood left very clearly at the scene. On the back of this notice board.
Oh, what?
Ah, yes, indeed. Indisputably a handprint of the distinctive color of blood.
Oh, you did right. That's my right hand. I did it anywhere.
Objection.
The witness very definitely testified that he wiped his hand on the floor. Any handprints on the back of the board are irrelevant. Not if the board itself had fallen over onto the floor. In that case, it's quite possible for the witness's handprint to have ended up there. Just look at the floor plan of the room. The notice board was in the opposite corner of the room to the victim, and in an upright position, even if it had somehow been toppled and was lying on the floor at the time. It would have been a considerable distance from the body.
Well, I fell over while I came across the body, so I was basically right next to the corpse, not on the other side of the room.
In other words, the defense's assertion is contradictory. Yes, it is. There's a very definite contradiction here, for which there must be a reason. I take it that you have formulated a proper hypothesis, Counsel? Regarding this apparent discrepancy between the witness's account and the handprint found at the scene? I have, my lord. This discrepancy between the witness's account and the location of the handprint is explained by... Let's take a look at some of our other evidence. Have you had an idea, Miss Nardo? You're staring at the end of the string of the fireworks. Sorry, it's the Venus special. I was wondering what 600 pence worth of fireworks would sound like. Shall we find out? What? But she said it could blow up the courtroom. Bang! Alright, that was a fairly sizable bang. My ears are still ringing, Miss Nardo. It sounded almost exactly like... Goes off like a gunshot. The real contradiction here is the handprint itself, not where it was found. As the court can see, it's upside down. Good gracious, so it is! If the witness had put his hand against the board, the finger should be pointing upwards. What does that tell us? It tells one simple fact. When this handprint was made, the board must have been lying on the floor, as I previously suggested. Which means that after the incident, it must have been moved. What?
Objection.
You're claiming that somebody moved the notice board after the shooting. Then tell the court who. I don't know that yet. But the point is, when you consider all the testimony we've heard so far, we can now be very clear on one point. And that would be the position of the notice board at the time of the incident, my lord. Sir, counsel, I must ask you to clarify your assertion for the court. At the time of the incident, where do you maintain the notice board was situated? Must have been around here. This is the only possible location. Immediately adjacent to the doorway? If the court would think back to the testimony given by the defendant earlier, he said that when he entered the room, it was dark, and he couldn't see the body. Boy! If the notice board had been here, the body would have been completely hidden from view, and the light from the candles would have been blocked, making the room appear darker. But the accused also claims that the victim's body simply appeared before him. That's true. Or, in his precise words... Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me.
Well, I don't know about calling it a scream, but he was talking about me and no mistake. Because it was me that kicked the door open.
If you look again at the floor plan, consider what would happen if the door to the room was thrown open with force. That can't. The door struck the notice board, knocking it over, and making the victim's body visible. Good gracious! My client has told nothing but the truth. He has simply described what he saw. Ah! Order, order! Counsel, how has this not come to light before now? After the incident, someone must have righted the board and moved it into the position where the police, myself, and my colleagues saw it when investigating the room. Witness, what have you to say for yourself?
What? Me, my lord?
You and your fellows were there at the scene before anybody else. It goes without saying that you must know something about the position of the notice board. The witnesses in the stand will testify again. You will each explain exactly what you did upon arriving at the scene of the crime.
Hey, stop looking at your glasses at me. I get your message.
Mystery of the Moon Boy.
I don't know anything about it in the notice board. I just want my hands on it, that's all.
Well, don't look at me. I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a bystander, me. Just a sign at the crossroads of life.
It was that Reaper, I bet. You got a face that screams bored.
I can't see how this changes anything in any way. The detective still died when we heard the gunshot. So none of you can elaborate further. Shaken by the crime they witnessed, and with only the light of a few candles and an oil lamp by which to see, we can't expect these witnesses to be able to give a more precise account of what happened. That's right, yeah. I don't pay to expect too much. It's man's endless quest for knowledge that's destroying the world. That's what I think. Do you? Really? In any case, as this testimony shows, even if the notice board was moved by somebody following the incident, it makes no difference. When the gunshot rang out, the accused was the only person at the scene. In short, the only person who could possibly have committed this crime is Barak Van Zeeks. None of this wrangling over the board changes that simple fact. Quite so, quite so. Does the defense still wish to cross-examine the witnesses despite the circumstances? Most certainly, my lord. Very well. Very well. You may proceed, counsel. So you admit that it was the board you wiped your bloody hand on?
Admit it? What's to admit is that I played his die for all seats, smashing print with my right hand.
Perhaps you wanted to hide that handprint, so you righted the notice board and pushed it into the corner, did you?
No, imagine the way that great look. I look like a powerful and well-nurtured man.
Well, did you see anybody else moving the board?
I got needed to stay, like I tell you, but even I have my limits. There was a bottle on foot in front of me. I gripped him by himself and stayed over it. There was precious little light inside it. When my bottom lip was all a quiver.
In other words, this witness is unable to give definite testimony on that point. Yes. So it would seem. When you say you were doing business with them, you meant you were selling them fireworks? Yeah, what else? There's the Priory School just around the corner, see? Those cheeky little so-and-sos have got a plan to blow their school to Kingdom Come. Ah! So I've been telling on them, letting their teachers know what they're up to. Oh, you have? Yeah, won't want anyone to get hurt. So I let the school know the kids are playing with dodgy toys. Then, praise the Lord, the teachers take all the fireworks off them. And then, praise the Lord again, the kids all come back to me to buy more. Everyone's happy, see? What a racket. Of course, and sometimes the teachers give me a little bonus to thank them for letting me know. To thank me for letting them know. It's a busy old life selling explosives. Venus is a guileful goddess indeed. Well, telling Bayfast lies is kind of my thing, really. I'm ever so good at it.
Excuse me.
Something wrong, Mr. Sandwich. If I said it was, could we just leave it at that? Would that be the end of it? No. Did Miss Venus' statement just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Philosophical thoughts. Deep, philosophical thoughts. Let's say there was a great liar. And that great liar said, without batting an eye, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing. I'm ever so good at it. Would those words of hers be a lie too? Or the truth? In which case she's not a liar. Oh, it's a hellish paradox, that one, don't you think? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But it seems to me you're suggesting Miss Venus has been lying. Are you? What are you on about, old man? Trying to cause trouble, are you? Keep on like that. And I'll wrap your whole body in firecrackers and set them off. That'll give you something to tremble about. You have a startlingly disturbing mind behind that sweet and innocent face, young lady. So Miss Venus has lied in her testimony. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Sandwich? Well, if it means I'll be burning in hellfire for the rest of my days, so be it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you elaborate, please, sir? Oh, blabbermouth here, heading for the room where the gunshots seemed to come from, but there was someone else who crept up the stairs behind you, too. That's right. That rotten liar over there. Do you mean to say that you did in fact betake yourself to the scene of the crime after all? What did I tell you, eh? I said I was good at telling barefaced lies, didn't I? Yes, you mentioned it. Well, that revelation rocked the whole courtroom, didn't it? Who knew firecrackers pack such a punch? So you did indeed visit the scene of the crime, did you, young lady? Good grief! Well, now you come to mention it, I suppose perhaps I do clearly remember climbing the stairs to the room, yeah. Either you clearly remember it or you don't. Well, I shall consider a fitting punishment for this perjurious act later. For the time being, you will immediately amend your testimony to reflect the truth. Oh yes, my lord, of course. Maybe I did sneak along behind gossip and have a little peek into the room where it all happened. You make a habit of lying, do you, Miss Venus? Well, I suppose so. I don't really know, to be fair. If you want my advice, though, I take everything I say with a big pinch of salt. Alright, but you did in fact go to the room where the victim was killed on the day in question, didn't you? Oh, please. As if I would. I can't think of anything more terrifying. The truth, please. Yeah, alright. Just a bit then. I mean, a girl my age is curious about stuff, you know. Did you touch anything at the scene? Oh, please. As if I would. I mean, there was a dead body on the floor. The truth, please. Well, alright. Just a bit then. I would love to see if there was anything I could sell. So I did get the place a once over, but it was nothing to write home about. Right. Now, I hesitate to ask, but you didn't move the notice board by any chance, did you? Oh, please. As if I would touch anything like that. Just a few bits of loose change is all I had. The truth, please. Well, alright then. I thought there might be something worth having underneath it. So I blasted the flippin' thing. Sorry, flipped the blasted thing. You're telling us that you did move that board? I think that did slip out, didn't it?
What? You daft bombpot!
I don't believe it. The girl doesn't think. So, did you find anything then? Something that you might have taken, perhaps? To sell? Oh, please. I should be so lucky if you... The truth, now! I might have found this old pocket watch with a nose board, I suppose. But a bit of junk like this can't be worth much, if you ask. Ah! 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 Oh, so it was you, was it? You're the one who took it. Gina! Young lady, may I remind you where you are? That watch? That watch there. I was present to Inspector Gregson from the yard. The big case he solved 10 years ago. 10 years ago? The professor case, no doubt. The boss used to warm you up every evening without fire when he was waiting for the scrub to come at the pub. I see. I swatted it off him once and blimey was he upset. Gave me a right earful. Say I hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years. Bullshit, won it. It meant the world to him that watched it. Possibly not the best thing to go diving for then. It's not all that though. I took it to Jabez's that night to ask how much it was worth. The old dealer wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't give me a penny for it. Said it wasn't working. Not about worthless, he called it. Ah! I knew I should have lifted it. That watch must be submitted as evidence at once. Oh, please, just so long as you promise to give it back when we're done. Not a chance. I'll swipe it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again. I'll swipe it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again. That's enough. Hand the watch to the bailiff forthwith. Now, children, watch your manners. Good Lord. The glass appears to be broken. More than likely it shattered when the inspector was shot. It doesn't tick anymore either. Which is why Jabez didn't want it. What a waste there. Yes, indeed. It appears to have stopped at the hour of 5. Exactly when the gunshot was heard, then. Which supports the prosecution's claim, of course. Gregson's pocket watch has been entered in the court record. Well, it would appear that the mystery of the moving notice board has been solved, at least. And as predicted, it had very little bearing on the case. Arg. The glass over the face really is badly cracked. Look. What a shame when the inspector looked after it so carefully. I imagine Mr. Sholmes could repair it, don't you? Yes, I should think so. He's very adept at things like this. Useful man to have around, in fact. But kindly remember that he's a great detective, Mr. Otto. Not an odd job man. tiny little stub sticking out from this small hole here. Look. I suppose there must have been a little knob or something on that for setting the time. Well, in that case, seeing as we know the inspector took such good care of his watch, it probably broke when the incident occurred, didn't it? Yes, of course. Which could mean that there's a small part of the watch still at the scene, maybe. Ah, there's a tiny little keyhole here, can you see? Oh yes, that's probably for the winder used to wind up the mechanism. Looks a little unusual, don't you think? Yes, you would need just the right key to wind it, I imagine. Why do I feel as though I've seen something? Something a bit like a key that's about the right size to fit in this hole. It would be wonderful if we had the key. Let's check carefully over what we've already found. The helmet... What's that? It appears to be... But it's tiny though, it could be... Miss Susato, do you think that perhaps this key could be the key for Inspector Gregson's watch? Oh, yes, it could be. Let's try it at once. There's not a moment to lose. I knew it. A perfect fit. And look, the inspector's watch has started going again. Ah, so it has obviously just not been wound up, that's all. What is it, Mrs. Sato? Well, if the watch isn't actually broken after all, I have a feeling it could have profound implications. She's deep in thought now. Perhaps I'd better start thinking deeply too. Now then, continue with your cross-examination, please, Counsel. But you did go to see what happened in the room, didn't you? Fresno Strait is my whole world. It's all I know. And I know all of it. I'll have to make it my business to know if I want to hold my sign up high. So you did go to see what had happened? It's not the destination that's important. It's how you get there, isn't it? Did you notice the notice board in the room? If you think about it, we're both the same species, aren't we? Both different members of the Sign family. So if I'd spotted it, I might have tried to trip it up out of a sense of rivalry, I admit. Someone really needs to tell you that you are Homo sapiens and not Homo siniens. Does that mean that you didn't notice the board? The board. I can only repeat what I said before. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a bystander. Me, just a sign at the crossroads of life. In which case, just who was responsible for moving the notice board? We found that out already. What exactly do you mean by that?
Oh, come on, don't tell us you're not noticed. It looks like he hates everything in the world, that fella. But not notice boards. They're the one thing he likes. You could see it in his eyes.
I can't say I'd ever noticed.
I'll tell you one thing for free, though. I never took my eyes off that man on the floor. Or off the Reaper. Not for a second.
Sorry?
What? I was that scared. I couldn't. You never know what a thing like that might do if you look away, do you?
If you didn't take your eyes off the defendant, you should be able to confirm categorically whether or not he was the one who moved the notice board.
I can. Reaper did not know the sort. I could swear that. I couldn't have missed it if he leave the thing upright again and dragged it into the corner.
Right. Glad we've cleared that up. What happened to the face that screamed bored? Feel your pain, Yazuma. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon that you all heard the loud bang, wasn't it? Maybe the notice board fell over, maybe it didn't. Maybe I fell over, maybe I didn't. But the Reaper's fate is sealed either way because of that gunshot we all heard. So your fate's sealed too. My fate? That's right. The defense is fated to lose, and the prosecution to win. In other words, it all hinges on that single gunshot. So if I could just find some problem with that part of their story, it may be possible to change all our fates. Of course, none of that changes the fact that I heard what I heard, does it? Not much to go on. As you've pointed out, Miss Nardo, there's no question that the notice board was moved, so somebody must have done it. But it did happen after the event, so maybe Casimir's right and it's not relevant to the case. But it seems to have been deliberately positioned so as to hide the body from view. So I feel sure that there's some deeper significance to all of this. Yes, I know what you mean. I've no doubt there are more clues to be uncovered. You're on the right track. I can feel it, so follow your instincts. Alright then. Let's try presenting the stopwatch. Yes! Okay, got it. I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Oh. At the scene, we found this key to the winder of the inspector's pocket watch. A key. And having wound the pocket watch, we discovered that it in fact still works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken at all. And that fact completely undermines one of the most fundamental premises on which this entire case has been built. What? Order. But, counsel, the watch was stopped at almost exactly 5 o'clock. Yeah, which is just when we heard that gunshot.
It is exactly the hour.
The time that was showing on the watch tells us nothing other than when it wound down. It's merely a coincidence that it happened to be at 5 o'clock. Even if that's true, the 3 witnesses here all heard the gunshot at 5 o'clock. So that's obviously when this crime was committed. No, that doesn't hold. Why not? Recall what Inspector Lestrade said only moments ago. Boss used to wind it up every day, wind it up every evening without fail, when he was waiting for his grub to come at the pub. So he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years, polishing it and winding it. Meant the world to him, that watch did. The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound the timepiece on the evening before he died as well. Yes, that would be entirely reasonable. But if that's the case, you wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day.
Alright.
Well, how do you explain it then? In summary, the evening before the day of the incident, when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch. You can't mean. What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single day for 10 years? The obvious answer is that he was already dead. Order, counsel, this is a most extraordinary claim. Extraordinary isn't the word. It's absurd. You claim he was already dead the night before? Do you really think that Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? On that subject, there is something rather surprising. There's actually an omission in the coroner's report. The time of death is not noted. Huh? That's right.
Wait a minute, you're forgetting that my legs went out from when I kicked the door in.
What do you mean?
Like I said, I put in my hand a dirty great bottle of blood.
Yes. So the victim's blood hadn't dried. It was fresh.
I guess it's all fresh, doesn't it?
But that blood could be explained in any number of ways. It could have been put there afterwards. Some fresh blood could have been put at... Does my learned friend think that fresh blood is available on every street corner? Ah! Well, it needn't necessarily have been human blood, of course. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify blood as human. The problem is currently being researched, but at present you are correct. It is beyond our abilities. So then, a chicken's blood could have been used, for example. It's certainly a possibility that it wasn't the inspector's blood at all. But the gunshot was heard at 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's beyond question. Is it, though? What? I mean, given that the time of death of the victim has already been called into question, it isn't beyond the realms of possibility that what these witnesses heard wasn't a gunshot at all. Oh, please, what are you trying to say?
As long as we heard, it was a loud bang that came from their room.
Now, you listen to me. A street seller's ears are his livelihood. I don't doubt your ears, sir, but all you can state with certainty is that you heard a noise.
Eh?
Explain yourself, then, counsel. A noise that sounds like a gunshot could have been made with... something like this. The culprit could have set off one of these to fake a gunshot. Good gracious, the very fireworks that are sold by the witness? Now, hold on a minute. Are you saying I did it? My pretty little firecrackers only make a little pop anyway, see? Not 100 of them together. The Venus special that you sell for 600 pennies sounds like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot, in fact. Ah. You're trying to suggest that somebody set one of those fireworks off at the scene. I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in the room at 5 that day and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for these peddlers on Fresno Street to hear. But even the accused himself has testified that he saw no one else in the room at the time. Whether it was a gun or a firecracker, the only person present to cause that bang was Baraka and Zeeks. One whiff of a match and my firecrackers go pop. See? It's why people like them. I feel for your fingers, young lady. Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learned of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a time bomb. Good heavens, a bomb! Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like. Miss Naruto, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may lead to yet another international incident. No, wait. It's the whenever you like part that's important. A timed device. Yes, exactly. A timed device. Something of that nature could have been planted at the scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left. Your extravagant claim will have to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest in any way that a time device was employed to create the gunshot sound? Do I have any? I mean, I must. Goodness, I genuinely don't know. You're suggesting this could have... Okay, so I was right. Okay. I thought that might be it, but it just didn't seem likely, so I just figured, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. You're suggesting that this could have been used as some sort of time delay device? I did think so, my lord, but it's becoming increasingly clear that we've all been very misguided here. Yes, by you. What? No, Council, the time has come for a penalty without delay. Oh, I was wrong. Never mind. Time to clear the area before the blast. Your extravagant claim will have to be substantiated with evidence. As the court has already discussed, the tip of one of the candles in this candelabrum has been blown off. Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet which presumably passed through the victim. I don't think that's possible, my lord. Not possible? Why? Because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle. There are... Oh, goodness, yes! But is it not the case that there was also scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound? That's right, there was. But as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very close range, a matter of centimeters from the gun. Ah! Which means that the scorching on the candle can't possibly be the result of a gunshot. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks.
How could that be?
The fact that there's such visible scorching on the candle suggests that the firework must have been right next to it when they exploded. Or to put it another way, the candle and firecrackers were joined together. The culprit somehow attached the fireworkers at a point partway down the candle. After the killer had left the scene, the candle slowly burnt down along with the other two, until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud bang. And that is how these three witnesses came to believe that they had heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. Well, what a plot. And this implies that the victim could have died earlier than we've been led to believe. The previous day, even.
Now just hold your horses. All of us here saw a victim go into the building, remember?
I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair even if I wanted to. The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim at all. Consider this.
Ah!
Obviously, anybody can wear a wig. So the person that these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident occurred could easily have been someone else entirely wearing the red hairpiece. Someone else? Do you mean to say... It was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick. In other words, Inspector Gregson's killer. Oh, very impressive, Ranosuke Naruhodo. Kazuma? I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the makings of a great defense lawyer? I also noted the lack of a time of death in this report, a stark omission. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired. Order, order, order! Prosecutor Asugi, what on earth do you mean by that statement? I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today, so we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. The defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's stopwatch is just conjecture. But, while the possibility exists that my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it. Well, certainly, I would agree with you. And what immediately comes to mind is, of course, what was Inspector Gregson doing and where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard. Even within the Yard? However, considering the evidence we've been presented with so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent what case the man was pursuing. Wouldn't you, my learned friend? I do have a feeling about what case he might have been investigating. Yes, I agree. Surely. My lord, the defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated by Inspector Gregson at the time of his death. Very well, counsel. Present your argument to the court. What evidence is suggestive of the case being investigated by the inspector on the day prior to the incident? I believe this red hairpiece points to the answer. We might assume it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation. Surely not. Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable. Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in a crowd. Except, that is, in a crowd of gentlemen from the Red-Headed League. The Red-Headed League? So, you'd already worked it out. What on earth is this all about? Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen? The Red-Headed League is currently under investigation for a grand deception. A deception of what nature, counsel? They've been targeting red-headed men across all of London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord, the defense calls for those 2 men to be summoned at once. 2 redheads! Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece, so it's very likely he had direct contact with these criminals. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events. I concur that we cannot in good conscience leave this new avenue unexplored. Well done, Mr. Harder. Well, it's another possible line of inquiry for us, at least. The prosecution will make immediate arrangements for the charged men to appear. Bring these 2 Red-Headed League conspirators before me, Prosecutor Hasugi. At once, my lord. Very good. We will have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned. Ooh, like perfect timing, truly. Really, just good, really, really perfect timing. Alright, thank you to everyone who wasn't here today, and I will see you all on Saturday for more Deponia. Let's just see if there's anyone to raid. Is there anyone to raid? To raid, to raid, to raid. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. All right. Looks like no one's live right now. Well, I'll see you all on Saturday. Toodles!